Can you subscribe to my new channel for support purposes? Adam opened his eyes to complete darkness. A cold, metallic surface pressed against his back, and the air was thick with the scent of iron. Panic surged through him as he sat up, trying to make sense of his surroundings. He reached out, but his hands met only more metal, smooth and unyielding. His head throbbed, and his mind was a haze, with no memories of how he got here or even who he was. The sound of machinery suddenly filled the space, and Adam felt himself rising. It was then he realized he was inside some sort of elevator, but where it was taking him, he had no idea. The ascent was slow, giving him time to gather his thoughts, or at least attempt to. The more he tried to recall his past, the more elusive it became, slipping through his mental grasp like sand through fingers. A harsh light pierced the darkness as the elevator stopped and the doors slid open. Adam squinted, trying to adjust to the sudden brightness. As his vision cleared, he found himself staring at a group of young people, all around his age, standing in what appeared to be a large, open area. Tall, imposing walls surrounded the space, their tops disappearing into the sky. One of the young men stepped forward, his expression a mix of curiosity and wariness. He was tall, with broad shoulders and a calm demeanor that seemed to reassure the others. "Welcome," he said, extending a hand. "I'm Khan." "This is Kara." Adam took the offered hand, his mind still reeling. "Kara," he repeated, looking around. "Where am I? What is this place?" Khan offered a faint smile, though his eyes remained serious. "This is Kara, a place where none of us know how we got here or why. But we survive. That's all we can do." Adam felt a chill run down his spine. "But who am I? Why can't I remember anything?" Khan sighed. "We all asked those questions when we arrived. Unfortunately, the answers are hard to come by. But you're not alone. We're all in this together." Before Adam could ask more, a loud, ominous bell rang out, echoing off the massive walls. The group of young people immediately turned their attention to a large gate embedded in the wall, which was slowly opening. "That's the labyrinth," Khan explained, his tone turning grave. "Every morning the gates open, and every evening they close. We send runners in to map it out, hoping to find a way out. But the labyrinth changes every day, and no one's found an exit yet." Adam stared at the dark passage beyond the gate, feeling a mixture of dread and curiosity. "And what happens if someone gets stuck in there?" Khan's expression darkened. "If you're not back by sunset when the gates close, you're on your own. And trust me, you don't want to be out there when night falls as the gates fully opened." A group of the fittest-looking individuals, all carrying makeshift weapons and bags of supplies, moved toward the entrance. One of them, a young woman with a steely gaze, nodded at Khan as she passed. Khan nodded back, then turned to Adam. "That's Denise," he said, "one of our best runners. She knows the labyrinth better than anyone. If you're ever out there, stick close to her." Adam watched as the runners disappeared into the darkness of the labyrinth, the gates towering over them like the jaws of a giant beast. He felt a surge of determination mixed with fear. He might not know who he was or how he got here, but one thing was clear: he needed to survive. And if there was a way out of this place, he was going to find it. After the morning's chaotic introduction, Khan took Adam on a tour of Kara. It was a strange makeshift society, with everyone contributing in some way to the group's survival. Some were tending to crops, others repairing structures, and a few were crafting tools and weapons from scavenged materials. Everything had a purpose, and there was an unspoken rule of cooperation that everyone seemed to understand. The first rule here, Khan explained as they walked through the central area, is that we look out for each other. No one survives alone in Kara. If you see someone in need, you help them. We've got. Adam nodded, absorbing the information. "What about the labyrinth? Why does it change every day?" Khan paused, his expression thoughtful. "We don't know why it changes. All we know is that it does. Some say it's alive, that it's testing us. Others think it's some kind of experiment. But whatever the reason, the labyrinth is dangerous, and it's our only hope of finding a way out." They continued walking, passing by a group of younger kids playing a game with makeshift balls. Despite the dire situation, there was a sense of normalcy here, as if everyone was trying to cling to any semblance of a life before Kara. "The second rule," Khan continued, "is that you must return before nightfall. The gates close at sunset, and anyone left inside the labyrinth is on their own. There are things in there, creatures we call the GC Bexilleri Night Keepers. They're deadly, and no one who's been trapped with them has ever come back. Adam felt a shiver run down his spine at the mention of the Night Keepers. Has anyone seen them? Khan nodded grimly. A few have caught glimpses. Dark, fast, and deadly. The labyrinth becomes their territory after dark, and that's when the real danger begins. They reached the edge of the central area, where a tall, stern-looking young man was organizing a group of others. He had an air of authority and experience about him. "This is Yusuf Khan," said, introducing them. "He's the leader of the runners. He makes the final call on all expeditions into the labyrinth." Yusuf glanced at Adam, sizing him up. "You're the new guy," he said, not unkindly. "If you plan to survive here, you'll need to learn fast. The labyrinth isn't forgiving, and neither are the Night Keepers." Adam nodded, feeling the weight of Yusuf's words. "I want to help," he said, determination in his voice. "I want to find a way out of here. Saint." Yusuf raised an eyebrow, then nodded approvingly. "Good. We'll see how you handle yourself. But remember, it's not just about finding a way out, it's about staying alive long enough to make it." As they moved on, Khan continued to explain the various roles in Khaira. There were scouts who explored the safer areas around the central zone, builders who maintained the structures, and gardeners who tended to the small but essential crops that provided food. "We all have a role to play," Khan said. "And everyone contributes. No freeloaders here. You'll need to find your place, and fast." Adem understood the importance of what Khan was saying. In this enclosed world, survival depended on cooperation, discipline, and a willingness to face the unknown. That evening, as the sun began to dip below the towering walls, a horn sounded, signaling the return of the runners. Adam watched as Denise and the others emerged from the labyrinth, their faces weary but determined. They had survived another day, but the tension in the air was palpable. Khan stood beside Adam, watching the gates slowly close. "Every day is a fight," he said quietly, "but one day we'll find a way out. We have to believe that." Adam nodded, feeling the resolve in Khan's words. He knew that his journey in Khaira was just beginning, and that the labyrinth held more secrets and dangers than he could have imagined. But he also knew that if there was any chance of escaping this place, he would need to uncover those secrets, no matter the cost. The next morning, the atmosphere in Khaira was tense. Adam could feel the weight of expectation on his shoulders as he joined the group of runners preparing to enter the labyrinth. Yusuf had given him the go-ahead to join them, but with a clear warning: stick close, follow instructions, and whatever you do, don't get separated. Denise, the experienced runner with the steely gaze, approached him as they geared up. "It's not just about speed in there," she said, adjusting her pack. "You have to be smart, aware of your surroundings at all times. The labyrinth is constantly changing, and if you lose focus, you're as good as dead." Adam nodded, appreciating her straightforwardness. "I'll stay close to you," he promised. The gates creaked open, revealing the dark maw of the labyrinth. Adam took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. The runners moved as one, slipping through the entrance and into the winding passages beyond. Inside, the air was cool and damp, with the faint smell of earth and stone. The walls loomed high above them, covered in moss and creeping vines. The path ahead twisted and turned, with every corner hiding the potential for discovery or danger. Denise led the group, her movements swift and sure. Adam followed closely, his senses on high alert. Every sound, every shift in the light, set his nerves on edge. The labyrinth was a living thing, constantly shifting, with new passages opening and closing as if it were a giant, ever-changing puzzle. After what felt like hours of navigating the twisting paths, Denise raised a hand, signaling the group to stop. "We're near the central section," she whispered. "This is where things get tricky. The layout changes rapidly here, and we have to be fast." Adam glanced around, noticing the subtle movements in the walls, as if the labyrinth were breathing. It was unsettling, and he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Suddenly, a loud grinding noise echoed through the passage, and the ground beneath them trembled. "Move!" Denise shouted, and the runners broke into a sprint. The walls around them shifted, closing in and creating new barriers. Adam's heart raced as he followed Denise, the path ahead narrowing and twisting in unpredictable ways. He could hear the others behind him, their footsteps pounding on the stone floor, but the sound was drowned out by the groaning of the moving walls. They turned a corner, and Denise skidded to a stop, nearly colliding with a dead end. Back. Go back, she yelled, but the passage they had come from had already sealed shut. Adam's mind raced as he searched for an alternative route. His eyes landed on a small opening to their left, just wide enough to crawl through. Here, he called out, pointing to the opening. Without hesitation, Denise led the way, and one by one, they squeezed through the narrow gap. On the other side, they found themselves in a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. The room was filled with strange machinery, rusted and ancient, with wires and pipes snaking along the walls and floor. "What is this place?" one of the runners asked, his voice tinged with awe. Denise shook her head, her eyes scanning the room. "I've never seen anything like this before," she admitted, "but it looks important. We need to document everything." Adam felt a chill as he moved deeper into the chamber. The air was thick with the hum of electricity, and the machine seemed to pulse with a faint, eerie light. There was something unsettling about this place, as if it held secrets long forgotten. He approached one of the machines, examining the symbols etched into its surface. They were unlike any writing he had ever seen, a complex series of shapes and lines that seemed to shift and change as he looked at them. "Careful," Denise warned, watching him closely. "We don't know what any of this does," Adam nodded, stepping back. "Do you think this is connected to the labyrinth?" "Like it controls it somehow, it's possible," Denise said, her voice thoughtful. "But without more information, we're just guessing. Let's gather what we can and head back. The others need to see this." As they worked, a low, rumbling sound echoed through the chamber. The machines began to vibrate, and the lights flickered ominously. "We need to go," Yusuf said, urgency in his voice. Now the group hurried toward the exit, but as they reached the narrow gap they had crawled through, the ground shook violently. The walls began to close in, and the gap started to shrink. "Move," Yusuf shouted, pushing the others forward. Adam barely made it through before the gap sealed shut, leaving them trapped in a new section of the labyrinth. The realization that they were now cut off from their previous path sent a wave of panic through the group. Denise took charge, her voice steady despite the situation. "We'll find another way out," she said. "Stay focused. Stay together." As they navigated the unfamiliar paths, Adam couldn't shake the feeling that they were being herded, led deeper into the labyrinth by some unseen force. The walls seemed to move with purpose, guiding them into a specific direction. After what felt like an eternity, they stumbled upon another chamber, this one smaller and filled with strange, glowing symbols on the floor. The symbols pulsed with a soft light, and as Adam stepped closer, he felt a strange pull, like a whisper in the back of his mind. "Don't touch anything," Yusuf warned, but it was too late. Adam's foot brushed against one of the symbols, and a surge of energy shot through the room. The walls trembled, and the symbols flared brightly before fading away, leaving the room in darkness. The air crackled with energy, and the ground beneath them began to shift. Suddenly the floor gave way, and they fell into darkness. Adam awoke in a dimly lit tunnel, the taste of dust in his mouth. He groaned, sitting up slowly as he tried to remember how he had ended up here. The last thing he recalled was falling, the ground giving way beneath them, and then nothing. "Everyone okay?" he called out, his voice echoing through the tunnel. There were groans of pain and confusion as the others stirred. Yusuf was the first to respond, his voice rough. "We're alive, but where the hell are we?" Denise pulled herself to her feet, wincing as she checked for injuries. "We fell pretty far," she said, rubbing her shoulder. "But it looks like we're still in the labyrinth." "Just." Deeper. Adam looked around, his eyes adjusting to the dim light. The tunnel walls were lined with the same strange symbols they had seen earlier, glowing faintly in the darkness. There was something eerie about this place, as if it had been untouched for centuries. As they began to explore the tunnel, Adam's head throbbed with a dull pain. Flashes of memories he couldn't quite grasp flickered through his mind, faces, places, emotions all just out of reach. It was as if the fall had triggered something deep within him, stirring memories that had been buried for too long. "Do any of you remember anything?" Adam asked, hoping he wasn't the only one experiencing these strange flashes. Denise nodded slowly, her expression troubled. "I've been getting these weird flashes too, like memories, but not clear. Just fragments." Yusuf frowned, rubbing his temples. "Same here. It's like something is trying to force its way into my mind." Selim, who had been quiet up until now, spoke up. "The labyrinth. It's doing this to us. It wants us to remember something. Adam looked at Selim, intrigued. But why? What's the point? Selim shook his head, frustration evident in his voice. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's connected to this place. We need to figure it out if we're going to survive. As they moved deeper into the tunnel, the flashes of memories became more frequent and intense. Don't forget to subscribe.